Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies. I see that we are all ladies. Welcome to this session on using escape rooms and feedback. And so I want to say thank you very much for coming early and thank you very much for waiting until we had enough persons that we can start the session. I know that we're very busy and for you to come early to engage with the session is something that I appreciate. My name is Michelle Stewart-McKoy, and I work here in the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And my assistance for today is Miss Barkley, Miss Natasha Barkley. You would have been, well, you should have been interacting with her in some of the sessions that we have had. Miss Barkley, for those who don't know your face, could you just quickly open your mic, your camera if you can?
I can. Oh, sorry. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be sharing the space with you and learning with you. Have a good session.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barkley. So if you have any questions, the group is small, so you can just raise your hand or open your mic, stop me at any point, post to the chat. Ms. Barkley will be helping us. Now, I had put some files together so we could create a very basic room. We may not have the time for it, but I'm still going to ask Ms. Barkley to share the files so that if we don't get that hands-on component in, you can still practice putting your room together using what I have put together for our session. All right, so I am going to share my screen and I'm using two monitors. So if you see me look away, it simply means that I am looking on the second monitor. Not sure what just happened, but let us try that again. How are we doing? Are you seeing the screen? You hearing clearly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
All right, so I think I need to do a new share just to share the sound when I am going to share the samples. Okay, so again, welcome. And this is our session on creating digital escape rooms. And we're focusing on digital or online escape rooms because of the nature of what it is that I focus on. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do this in a face-to-face class. We have physical rooms that follow the same principles. So we're going to be looking at how we can explore game-based learning, this aspect of it, escape rooms, and engaging our students with feedback that feels less like work or boring school tasks and more like engagement and fun. All right. Now, we're going to discuss the basic principles of effective feedback through game-based learning and gamification. And then we're going to design, or we're going to see how to design a very simple escape room for our educational context. Okay. Now, what exactly are digital escape rooms? Well, if you think about it, escape rooms are really an experience where you are locked away and you have to solve problems or puzzles in order to escape. When we talk about educational escape room, they are themed digital experiences where the students solve problems in order to progress. The feedback that the students get is embedded within the challenge rather than something that is delivered to them afterwards. Okay, so that is in a nutshell what digital escape rooms are. Now, why would we want to use escape rooms? They provide context for language learning. They provide skills development. They make learning more meaningful. They encourage problem solving and critical thinking. They engage the students and motivate them in very exciting and engaging ways. We talk about collaboration and teamwork. This is something that, it's a part of our lifelong learning skills. They provide opportunities for experiential learning, especially when we pull upon authentic scenarios and real world experiences. The escape rooms, the digital escape rooms, because of the nature of how they are constructed, they align with the universal design principles, the UDL principles. So they cater to different learning styles and preferences. They present the information in multiple ways, and they have multiple means of assessments and feedback that is given. And of course, when the students go through this exercise, they develop a sense of accomplishment and confidence having gone through this. There are many other reasons why we would use escape rooms, but these are the more common ones that you will hear about. All right. Now, what are the basic elements of an escape room? Escape rooms in our context, teaching and learning context, are not very popular. And so you find that although we have been using things like badges and leaderboards, a little bit of use in where leaderboards are concerned, the whole matter of creating an escape room is not very popular. But when you think about an escape room, you think about something that requires time and effort to come up with a storyline or um, a theme, a narrative that makes sense to the students. In you will find some experts such as Kevin Rohrbach who will tell you that this is called onboarding. You need to find a way that is creative and compelling to get the students in, and then after you get them onboarded, you then find a way to keep them. Okay. I think in language they call this a hook, that grabber that makes you want to see what is happening or want to find out what this is all about. So it has a compelling narrative or a theme or a storyline. And so you have to ensure that you set it in such a way that they're helping somebody or they're discovering somebody or they need to complete a task before time runs out or something like that. And then you have a series of what we call puzzles or challenges. These are the problems that the students have to solve. And there are different ways of presenting these puzzles and challenges. Then you have the rules or the objective, what it is the students are supposed to be doing by the time they're finished with this, and and what is it that they can do or cannot do. So these instructions need to be set out very clearly for the students so that they can understand exactly what it is that they're expected to do. In some rooms, you have a time limit. So you may add a timer to it so that they have to complete this particular task or these puzzles within a specific period of time or something happens. So we have complete this or this will be the consequence. But this is not in all escape rooms. It's optional and it depends on what it is you really want. If you're mimicking the real world, it means that there are going to be instances where there is a timed activity and you have to work together or alone to ensure that this is done. Uh, you may have hints. Hints are clues that help the students to figure out exactly what is happening. And you may put these in, you may put in a scoreboard, you may put in other game-based learning elements or gamification elements. And of course, you have to ensure that you include feedback because this is one of the things that we are talking about, the whole matter of how do we incorporate effective feedback strategies to help the students while they go through this game-based learning activity. Now, we acknowledge, we're facilitators, that feedback is powerful. It helps the students to understand exactly what it is that they're doing well and where they can improve. When we think about escape rooms, feedback is immediate. feedback is engaging, and it guides students towards the correct answers while keeping them motivated to stay and escape. All right. Now, we also think about some basic principles when we're giving feedback. So when we talk about timeliness in the escape room, the feedback is immediate. So the students know right away if they're on the right track. So if they select something or they open something or they push something apart, they know right away if they're doing something right. It has to be specific. So if we design our challenges or our puzzles in such a way, the kind of guidance that we provide to get them through need to be very precise. We can't just say good job or not correct. We have to be very specific with what has happened based on the student's response. And then we have to ensure that there is some direction to action, some call to action. So when the students do these puzzles or these challenges, we have to ensure that the feedback that they get point them in a clear direction as to what it is that they're supposed to do next, whether or not they have to go back or whether or not they now go forward. We have to ensure that there is something that tells them what it is that you're going to do. And then in terms of what we call process orientation, this is how we focus on the approach, how they do what they do rather than their ability. So it is how they solve the problem that really matters. So these are just some basic principles that we need to think about when we're thinking of feedback with our escape rooms. And then because we're giving this kind of feedback that is timely, that is specific, that is actionable, it means that we need to think about the types of feedback. Now, I don't know if there was anybody here who came to the lesson, the Moodle lesson and setting it up for feedback, but we know that there are different types of feedback that we can give. And we're trying in an escape room scenario to move away from just simply the verification type, which simply says, yes, that's correct, or no, that's not correct. We want to go a little bit further by using the type of feedback that elaborates. So this is where we explain that, yes, you got it or it's partially correct, and then you explain why. All right. In terms of the constructive feedback, we want to provide some kind of strategy to help them if they have to go back. We give them some kind of strategy so that they can ensure that the second time around they find what it is they're looking for, or they select the respective thing. And where possible, we should give metacognitive feedback. So this is where we encourage them to think, and we're trying to develop the critical thinking and the reflection, the reflective skills. So we encourage them to reflect on what it is that they did. We think back on whatever the learning concept is that we want them to produce, and ensure that the feedback allows them to do that. Of course, as we go through, we want to give them encouragement, give them a thumbs up, tell them, yeah, that's right, and that sort of thing. So we need to ensure that for every challenge or most challenge, that we give some time, we integrate the feedback within it, and we ensure that the feedback that we give is more than simply saying it's correct or it's not correct. Okay. Now, when we think about escape rooms, there are so many different platforms and tools that we can use. So there isn't any one set of tools that we can use. You have free tools, completely free tools that you can use. You have freemium, meaning that there is a free element and a premium element. So there is a free and a paid aspect in the one package. And then you have fully paid packages that you can use. Now, I have listed a few of them here. Please note that you have other tools that you can use. So in terms of free and freemium, we have Google Sites. Now, Google Sites married to if we marry Google Sites with Google Forms and Google Drawing, you have something that you would never imagine is a simple escape room. And I had an example that I had done for a group in Guyana. I'm just going to show you just what the interface could look like. So this is, I used to teach Spanish, so please forgive me if I have Spanish language. So this is something that is set up in such a way that the students would see the information, the onboarding is here, and then when they click start adventure, it takes them into, so this is my Google form that is now embedded in the Google Sites platform. So we can use Google Sites combined with Google Forms to create our escape room. And that means we can add audio, sound elements, visuals, and so forth. We can use Canva. So I don't know how many of us are familiar with Canva, but Canva is quite a platform in terms of providing templates and images, and there's an AI element that you can now incorporate. There is Padlet. We have done a number of sessions on Padlet. We can configure Padlet in such a way that it can be used to create an escape room. We can use PowerPoint. So I'm just going to show you a quick sample of something that is PowerPoint. All right, it's an escape room. So again, it's Spanish, forgive me. So it says El Plan de Escape. And then, of course, this is the onboarding aspect where the students get the breakdown of what it is that they're going to be doing when they enter. And then when they click on continue more, the rest of the story is told. Of course, we give them an out by saying that if you don't want to do this, you can leave. And throughout it, there are clues that are embedded that the students need to pay attention to, things that are highlighted, and so forth. All right, so I'm going to just escape, come out of that. There are platforms. So Genially, I pronounce it Genially because of the Spanish. I think it's probably Genially, I don't know. So this, I didn't put a hyperlink on it. I'm sorry. I'll take us to it when I'm through. But this gives you templates. So it also has a free aspect and a paid aspect. We can create our escape rooms in Nearpod, or I mentioned Canva. Now for fully paid, these are impressive. They're really, really nice. So even if you're not paying for them, you can take a look at how they set up their things. So Breakout, EDU, Escape Room Maker, and Adobe Captivate. Well, the Adobe suite tends to be a little bit on the pricey side. And then of course you can get images. You have pre-pick, you have raw pixel, you have Canva where you can get images, you have Unsplash, Pixabay, and in terms of sound, there is Sound Bible, sound effects you can get from Freesound as well. And you have AI image generators. So if you want something specific, you can also describe it so that it is generated for you. What I am trying to say here is that there are so many possibilities in terms of getting the tools and putting them together to create our room. Now, we've been talking a lot about creating the escape room and talking about the escape room, but what exactly do we do when we create our escape rooms? Because we're talking about one, online or digital escape rooms, and two, we're talking about it in an educational context. One of the first things that we must consider when we are thinking about planning would be our learning objectives or our learning outcomes. Why? The learning objectives form the foundation of our education, our escape room. All right. And of course, we should ensure that our learning outcomes are smart. So we should ensure that they're specific and that they are measurable. You know, the things that we want the students to be able to do. They should be observable, they should be actionable, and so forth. And so the learning outcomes must align with the curriculum goals. So whatever it is that the bigger program is, the unit, the course is about, we need to ensure that when we are creating this game, that the learning outcomes fit into, or the learning outcomes are aligned with the bigger course goals. Because this is not just for entertainment purposes, it means that we need to ensure that the puzzles that we put together, the clues that we put together, are directly contributing to the learning objectives that we would have for our students. Okay, so we would have to start out, and I tend to, with every game that I create, I tend to put it on pen and paper. So even though I dabble a lot in the online space and the technology, I still go to the traditional process of using pen and paper and maxing it out and having different sheets and deciding how it works. So I tend to do that. So I have my objectives and I line up my objectives and I decide, okay, which one of my puzzles or which one of the challenges would be able to have the students doing this particular thing. All right. Now, the storyline, the narrative, this is what is going to provide the context of the entire escape room. And it's going to be the motivation for the students to solve the puzzle. A compelling narrative, a compelling storyline will transform a class that is blah or just so into something that is engaging and immersive. So it should be appropriate for the students' age level, whether they're first year or their final year or they're postgraduate students. If you're thinking of doing that, you need to ensure that the storyline isn't something that is too childish or that is too adult. All right. And we need to ensure that the storyline is aligned with the discipline, with the learning outcomes, and that it is age appropriate. And then, of course, we have to think about the different challenges that we're going to put in, how many challenges we're going to put in, how we will have these challenges flowing, and how we'll have the students move through the different challenges. So we don't want that the challenges are all on the same level. We want to increase difficulty as they go through and ensure that the difficulty is appropriate for the task that they're expected to do. So we do that with the puzzles and the flow. And then, of course, we decide which platform are we going to use to create this escape room, which platform will best support the learning objectives that we have, which platform is going to be accessible to all our students when we create it. So of course you can think about, will I use Google Sites? All my students can easily click on it and it take them there once they have internet access. Will I use HTML5 and put something together that's fancy that most students can use? Will I use a platform that will require them to log in and probably sign up and pay? Is this possible? Think about the technical requirements as well. It would be great to use an HTML5 sort of setup, but do we have the technical expertise to do so? How easy it is to use and to set up, how long it is going to take. Do we need to get external expertise to assist us here? So we need to think about all of these things. And we also need to think about, am I going to be using this for a synchronous session, meaning a live session, or am I going to be using this for something that they can do out of class? And how do I track if I want to track? If you use Google Sites and Google Forms, you can easily have a record of how students do, even if they don't put their names. You can have a general idea of performance. If you embed it into an external tool in the VLE, you can also do some kind of tracking. So when you're thinking about the platform and tool, you need to think about some of these things. And then, of course, we're going to develop the content. Some people say you start with the content, but I like for us to start with the learning outcomes and then decide the kind of challenges, and then you will build what it is that you're going to do. So you're going to think about the puzzles, what it is you're going to have them do. Think about the material that they will need or the kind of information that they need to have. You think about how the storyline remains true to your learning outcomes. And then, of course, there is the feedback. So you have to think, what kind of feedback am I going to give them here? Am I going to use a visual feedback, or am I going to have something that's text-based? And how am I going to combine one or two or three different types? How exactly am I going to do this? And what is the tone of the feedback that I'm giving? If this is a more relaxed setting, do I need to sound as formal as I normally do when I'm doing other types of feedback? So this is something that you need to think of as you are planning through. And you may realize that the script that you have actually has the feedback written down so that I know what will go on what. And then after we've done all of that, we build it. We pull all of these things together into the platform or using the tool that we have decided on. And then you think about, what kind of theme are you going to use? Is it something that's going to be dark? Are you going to need sound effects? Are you going, if you're doing this in something like PowerPoint, are you going to be using animations, triggers, hyperlinks, action buttons, that sort of thing? And so you do that while you're putting it together. And of course, as you're putting it together, you have to be testing it. All right. So we're testing as we go along. As we create the first one, we take the first couple of slides, we test it to see if it looks okay, if it sounds okay. And so we check to see if there are any technical difficulties, if there are any imbalances as we go along. And we don't just test it once, we test it several times. And if it's possible where we can have different persons test it for us, we can do so that we get a feel and that we feel satisfied that yes, this is doing what we want it to do. Okay, we want it to operate in this way and we see that the learning outcomes are clear. And then we run it. We run it with our students. We open it, we host it, we share it, and we allow the students to engage with whatever it is that we have built. And then we take a closer look at it. We then evaluate how successful it was, were the learning outcomes achieved, how did the students feel about it? You get feedback from them, and then you decide, okay, where do I go from here? Now I'm gonna just pause a little bit because I've been talking ever since I started. Did I lose anybody? Are there any questions? Are there any comments? I'm just gonna stop the sharing a little bit. Anybody? Did I go too fast? Is it over your head?
Good afternoon, Michelle.
Hi, how are you? Hi,
I'm
Carlene.
listening. How are you, Michelle? I'm listening to you talking, and this is something I have been trying to establish since probably more than a year now. And I must say, you will need patience in order to build something like this because for me, who is in the nursing department, with all of our content and trying to facilitate our students to think critically and to be able to put content to practice and all of that. It building one of this, one escape room is a challenge. So Michelle, I may be calling on you to help me.
That's fine. That's a part of why we're here, to assist you with things like these. And yes, I do agree with you. Something like that, apart from the fact that it is new, it's relatively novel, so we hear about it, we see it, we go, wow. But when it comes on to the planning aspect of it, that really is time consuming, but it's also worth it. It's worth the time and the effort that you put in. So in order to do something that is good, that is enjoyable, it means that we need to ensure that we know exactly who our students are, what do they like, um, and little things. Do they play games? Because it don't make sense you have an escape room if they're not interested in it. So the literature will
Oh,
tell
my
you that a
students
number of, I'm
are
sorry?
my students are only interested in that.
Yes. So we need to
They
find
like
out.
some virtual challenge.
We need to find out a little bit about the students, you know. So far, the sorts of questions that I have asked of my students show that they are interested in games, they play different games, they play games when they're teaching and so forth. And so it means that that's a first step for me. It means that it's easier for me to incorporate something like an escape room that would really engage them and keep them invested. So we need to think about that. And then, of course, I'm going back to the whole matter of tiers. So we need to think about the time that we have to source the different aspects, the time to learn how to use a platform if the platform is new to us, the time that is going to take to build it, but the time that we are going to use to implement it. You know, are we going to do this in a class? If we do so, how can we do it so that it is strategic, that the students don't lose any of the learning content while we engage them in a room? Are we going to do this asynchronously? So we need to think about the time. And we need to think about the expertise. Do we have the expertise? Do we need to source the expertise elsewhere? Can we get some things from our students? We tend not to involve them enough. So there is that aspect. Then there is the access. Do we have access to Adobe Captivate if we're going to go there? Do we have access to a lab that we're going to set it up, or a room that has devices? You know, do we have that sort of access? So we need to think about access as it relates to the tool that we're going to use to build this. And then there is access as it relates to the devices and the expertise. And then of course there is the financial aspect of well as well that we need to think about. Do we have access to the funds that we may need? Our resources, so resources is close, well, in addition to human resource, do we have the personnel? We need to think about, do we have the material? Do we have where we can get the images without you know, in engaging in any copyright breaches and that sort of thing? And then of course the support. Does our unit support this? Do we have the support of our students? Does the institution, does the faculty support the use of games and game-based learning? Unfortunately, there is still that stigma attached to games and game-based learning and game-based elements being a waste of time and pick the business and so forth. And even though there's more and more research coming out to speak about the value of it, there are still those of us who think that, you know, it's a waste of time. So we need to think about all of those things: the time, the expertise, the access, the resources, and the support factor if we're thinking of putting this together. All right. And then, of course, if we're doing it on, as you say, Carlene, within your school, you have to think about the rollout, how many members of staff you want to get involved in this, you know, what research opportunities are there, and so many other elements to think about. So it is time consuming, it requires investment, but as I said before, oh, the beauty of it. All right. Anybody else? So yes, I get a little bit passionate about this because it's an area that I have been doing my research in. I've been doing this with my students, and so I tend to get a little bit passionate. Yes, yes, Adele, please go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say that you could start small if you're not sure how the students would receive it. I once did an exercise, like a drag and drop exercise for referencing at the end of a session. And we went on for an entire 30 minutes extra because everybody wanted to have a chance to, you know, test their skills. And so
Yes.
start small. And, you know, at Global, we deal with more mature students, but they took to it like ducks to water.
Yes, yes. And that's very good advice. Start small. Choose one aspect of of the escape element and work with that and build on it over time. Thank you so much for sharing that idea. You may have seen where Miss Barkley has shared a file. So it's a set of files that I've put together for us to create a very basic game. So I'm going to share that game with you, and we're gonna take a look at I'm gonna remove the sound from it so that it doesn't interfere with me talking to you. But we're gonna talk about the types of feedback that we see in it, whether or not this is something very, very basic, very basic. So let me share that. I'm gonna remove the sound, and then we're gonna create it. So here we go. All right. So if I were a student, I would want to play this because the very cover page is something that looks good. as I said, I have removed the sound because I'd incorporated sound so that those who want to hear the audio as well as read, they have that option. And then it was also in keeping with the UDL principles of multiple means of representation and engagement. So we have somebody here, his name is Ricardo, and he sells us the storyline. He was wrongfully incarcerated. The real culprit has been caught, but because of some legal technicality, he has to spend 8.5 lifetimes. All right. So he's seeking our help because we're the ones who are going to be going through because there's an escape plan in the making. And you know, he's really distressed. He can't spend 8.5 lifetimes. And so here we're beginning to tell the student what it is they're expected to do. It has to do with Spanish language, and it has to do with being able to describe people, recognizing ordinal numbers, and also following these directions. So without saying, in this game, you're going to, we have already told them what it is that they're going to be doing. And then a question is posed. Now, of course, we could give them the option to not help Ricardo, but I didn't put that one in. But that is something that when we're building it, we can do that. Multiple means of engagement. So they can opt out if they want. And so we could do that. So we have said, okay, let's try to get you out of here. And he says, perfecto. So the students are also getting little bits and pieces of the language as they go through. He knew that he could depend on us. And first they need to find the inside man. Now, if your students are working together, or if your students recognize subtle signs, it would mean that the man isn't necessarily a man. Why is it in quotation marks? So that is one of the things that I would probably ask. And then so we need to find the inside man, Sam, who has more details. And then there's a description of Sam. So we see the language being used already. So the learning content is coming forth, and we see the whole part of the description here. So it says that es morena y está en la oficina. So it means that the next place that they're going to be going is to the office. And then it says, let's find Sam. Here is our actionable piece. So let's go and find Sam. So here we are, we're in an office because it did say it's an office. There are 4 persons in the office. We need to find Sam. No, the Spanish that he gives us says, es morena y está en la oficina. So we already have taken care of the está en la oficina part because here we are. There are 4 persons, but we need to find la morena. So it means that the student would look, you know, either have to go back to revise what Maureen, you know, when we talk describing people, what it means. Now, if they click on the black man at the front here who looks very commanding and in charge, it's possible that this could be our informant. What would happen is that the person would say that, okay, I see that you have recognized Morena. So here is the feedback. It's not just you're correct or you're not correct. So the feedback is one that is strategic, and it's also metacognitive. So it says, I recognize that you recognize that Morena has something to do with dark hair, which is correct. However, look carefully at the word ending. So that's a little bit strategic. The ending typically indicates masculine or feminine. So you're forcing the student to think about it without telling them, give it another go. So when they go back, they have to find Sam. They know that it's a feminine. All right. So if they click on this one, it means that they're looking for a woman. Yes, because Morena. So the feedback helps the student without telling them, oh, this is wrong. Remember, Morena means this and what have you. So we still haven't found Sam. We know that Sam is a woman. So if you wanted to increase the complexity for this particular challenge, you could add more people in the room. You could put a blonde person, a blonde male and a blonde female. You could probably put somebody sitting at the desk so that they may think that that is Sam. You could probably have somebody turned in one direction and sort of looking over the shoulder, depending on the kind of poses that you can get, so that you increase the complexity visually before students start clicking. So let us click on her. And it says, oh, you're here. I am Samantha, or Sam for short. So it's a part of the game is the realization now that, okay, something is happening. And, you know, she's lauding the person. Yeah, you found me. And I see that you're a little native in the making. Now, you're going to need the iPad. So if you have a clue that says you're going to need the iPad, when you're setting it up, you need to set up an iPad so the students can work with an iPad. And then the iPad tells us, so the story continues to unfold. This iPad that we're getting is connected to the security protocols, which means that we can override the system and get Ricky out of there. And so it says, selecciona el primer número a la derecha. Here we have the ordinal number and the directions coming into play. So we're going to get the iPad. And so when we click on the iPad, it opens up. We see these numbers. And so we have to determine which one is the primer número a la derecha. Now, this is a good way for the students to be able to recall ordinal numbers and directions. Now, let me ask you, which one is el primer número a la derecha? You tell me. Anybody?
Top right.
The top right. So here we go. So it says so close. You're on the right side, but the wrong ordinal number. Think back on ordinal numbers in English, if that helps, and then in Spanish. Which number is this one and which number do you need? So again, the feedback is a combination of elaborative, constructive, and metacognitive. So when we look back, we already know that we're already on the right side, and there are only two numbers on this side. Again, if you wanted to increase the difficulty here, you could add more numbers, different places on the blueprint, and so that the students would have to think about the other numbers. So it means that it's this side and it's this one. So of course it takes us out. He says, thanks, you're good with figuring out your descriptions and you know your ordinal numbers and directions. We may have had a few hiccups, but practice makes perfect, right? I owe you one. Muchas gracias y hasta luego. So the students are still using the language. They got the feedback to see how well they have done, and they can now leave the system. All right, so that takes us out. So are you ready to create a very basic, we have an hour, a very basic game using the tools that you have? Are we ready?
Yes.
All right. So the tools that the file that was shared in the files that were shared in the chat, please unzip them. So please download them to your device and unzip them so that we can have them. And the reason you have these files are just for us to go through very basic steps using PowerPoint, how to create that, okay? So as soon as you have unzipped and have them in an area that you can easily reach them, please let me know, and then we'll take it from there. All right, so indicate to me if you have unzipped. I think Miss Barkley stepped aside, so you'll have to open your mic and let me know if you have unzipped. All right.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start a new file. So I'm going to start a new file. So you're going to open PowerPoint, and I'm starting a blank new file, and I want it to be blank. And for ease of what it is we're doing, everybody's basically doing the same thing that I'm doing, unless you have some experience and want to toy around with a little bit. So you're going to, you can either add to ensure that you have 13 slides, or you can duplicate the first one, whichever works for you. So we need to ensure that we have 13. And we know this because we have already worked out all of this on paper. So we know what it is we need. I'm just trying to select all of this so that I can duplicate. So that makes it 8. And if I duplicate again, that gives me 12. And then I duplicate 1, that gives me 13. So I need
possible sharing.
Oh, I'm not sharing. Oh no, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I was. So let me share. Thank you so much for that. So I have a blank and I have 13 slides. So this is where we're going to be working. And the reason why we have 13 is because we have already done the mapping and we know what our learning objectives are and we know what the challenges would have been. So we have calculated all of that already. All right, so do we all have our 13 slides?
Getting there.
All right, as soon as you have 13, you can do a thumbs up or you can write it in the chat. Miss Barkley, are you back as yet? Right, I don't think she's back as yet. Or you can just open your mic and say that you're finished. Now, there are more sophisticated ways of doing this. So we could have easily set up some triggers, which really makes it fancy, but we are doing very, very basic, not trying to overwhelm you any at all. Okay? So I see the thumbs coming up. Remember 13. All right. Now, for the first slide, we want to have that landing page. Oh, I'm so sorry. How far are we? All right, I see the thumbs. Okay, God, great. And for those of us who are not quite finished, you're okay for us to continue? Open your mics, please.
What was the question, Michelle?
For those who don't have all 13 as yet, is it okay for us to proceed? All right, I am proceeding on the assumption that we either have all 13 or we almost have all 13. Now, for the very first slide, this is going to be, what we call it the landing page, we call it the onboarding page. This is the page that's going to be our hook. So this is what we want to grab the students. So we need to ensure that it has an engaging title if you're going to be setting up something, whatever the discipline is, something that's very interesting. Now, this is where the use of generative AI can come into play. So you can use the AI. If you have any ideas, you can throw it in to say, I'm thinking of creating an escape room. This is what I have. What do you think of it? Can it be improved? What other suggestions you may have? So you can use the AI to help you think of a creative title. And you may even ask it for the landing page, what could it look like? It will describe, and then you can say, oh, yes, I could do this, and so forth. So we're going to go and we're going to insert an image. Now, you can either go in insert image and search for it, or you can insert the image, we embed the image in the background. I like to use the embedding in the background so that any other images that I put on top of it, I don't have to worry about when I move this, everything is moving. Okay, but we're going to do the both ways. So you can either go to insert and then go to images and click on this device if you have your images stored on your device. You can also insert images from online pictures, from stock images that are there. So you have options. But for us, we already have the images in our folder. And so we're going to look for the landing page and we're going to click on it. It will come here. Oh, the designer is up. So what you would do is that you would move it to the top and resize it so that it fills up the page. All right, so it means that you may have to do a little bit of stretching and a little bit of cropping to ensure that it doesn't look too stretched. All right. So this is one way that you can insert the image. The other way is that you can right click and select format background. Now this is where we normally change the color of the slides, but we can also do the image aspect. So if we click on picture or texture fill and click on insert and select, again, we have the same options as we do when we go insert picture. If I click on that, and then I click on my landing page, it comes here, all right? And if you notice, I can't move it. So if I have other things on the slide, it won't move. And if I want to ensure that this comes in a little more to the right, you will see the offset and you'll see these numbers. So you can actually adjust your offset, and as you adjust it, you will see, so you can determine how much you want, all right? So this looks better to me, okay? So that's two ways that you can insert your images. Okay, so this is our landing page, but we want the button that says play, and that is not on as yet. So we're going to put everything in, and then we are going to do our hyperlinks or insert our action. So that is all that we're going to be doing today. We're not doing triggers, we're not embedding sound or anything, just something very basic. All right. So we're going to go to insert, and again, we're going to go to pictures, and this time we're going to look for the play. So there is something here that is supposed to say play, and I click on it. There it is. I will have to resize it because I want the students to be able to see it clearly. So I'll just put it a little smaller and then put it at the bottom. All right. And then of course, I'll take a quick look at what that looks like. So when I look at it, this is what it looks like. I like it. I feel good. All right. And then I can easily escape and come back. All right. So how are we doing? We're good?
So far.
All right. On the second and on the third slides, we're going to put in the background that says Ricky's background. Okay, so if we click on slides 2 and slides 3, we can insert those pictures. All right, so please insert the picture that says, let me make sure I got it right. So all we're doing right now, we're just putting in the background images and so forth. It says Ricky's room, right? So we're going to insert Ricky's room. On slides 2 and 3. And then on slides 4 to slides 8, we're going to put in the one that says, so we're putting in all the different backgrounds, right? So in slides 4 to 8, we are going to put in the background that says, I think it just says room. People room, right? So it says people room. So we'll put those in on slides 4 to 8. And if you have any questions, please just open your mic and ask. On slide 9, we're going to put the iPad. So on slide 9, we're putting the iPad. And remember, if you're inserting image, you'll have to resize it if it's too small, or if it's too big, you'll have to resize it so that it fits the screen. On slides 10 to 12, we're going to put back the people room. So slides 10, 11, and 12, we're putting back the background that says people room. Of course, if you had another background, you could easily put another background
10,
in.
10 to 12?
10 to 12, yes.
Michelle?
Yes, 10 to 12. You're not hearing me? Deirdre?
I'm hearing you now. You're going in and out.
Oh, the internet must be
That's
shut.
what, and it's what the people room.
The people room.
All right.
And then the final slide, we're going to put in the, let me see what I had called it, Ricky free to go background. All right. Now I'm going to pause the recording a little bit while we fill in the other sections, unless you want to keep it running while we do this. We're going to put in the respective people in on the other slides. So we're going to put on slides 2, on slide 2 and slide 3. Oh, I made a mistake. Slides 2 and 3 should have been Ricky's room, yes? All right, so let me just duplicate this. So in slide 2 and 3, we're going to put Ricky in. The first one is Ricky looking sad, and the second one is Ricky looking very happy. So we're going to put those images in. Excuse me.
Mrs. Stewart-McKoy?
Yes, ma'am.
Cordell Francis, she said she keeps getting bumped off in and out, so she is actually only on slide 1. I don't know if you're,
Oh,
if you can
no.
quickly just have her put in the other slides.
All right. So how many slides does she have? Are you in, Cordell? Cordell, you said?
Yes, I say Cordell Francis.
How many slides does Cordell have now? I want to know what to do in terms of helping out. Cordell has probably gotten bumped again.
All right, proceed. We just have to share the recording.
All right, great. Okay, so in slide 2, we're gonna put a sad person. Now, you may notice that this is the full length of the image and I have put it down a little bit. That is because I want not to show the entire body. I just want to show a part of him. So when I view this in slideshow, it looks like this. So I'm not seeing every part of him. Now, you could crop it if you want, or you can simply put it below the slide. It will not show in slideshow view. All right. So Ricky sad in 2, Ricky happy in 3 because you're going to help him. Slide 4, we're going to put the 4 characters in and then we can decide where we put them. All right, so we'll put them in and then we will organize them around the room so that they're not overlapping on each other. So my designer keeps coming up because it assumes. All right, so I may decide that I may actually have one of them sitting at the desk. So I'm gonna put this one at the desk, and in order to give that impression, I can easily just crop it. So it looks as if he's sitting at the desk. All right, and the others will be in the room. All right, so you can do something like that so that you have your characters. And then was, yes, go ahead.
I missed what is supposed to be on the background of slide 4.
Slide 4 to 8 should be the people room background. So it's just a room where that in this particular setup is an office. So it's the name of the file is people room. So on slide 4 to 8, that is what we should have. Okay. So if you're looking on the screen, you'll realize that my slide 4 has this background.
Yeah.
And in the folder, it's called people room. All right. So all 4 characters are going to be on slide 4, and then slide 5, 6, 7, and 8 will have one of each character. You can determine where you want to put who. So just make sure that you have the 4 characters spread across on the next 4 pages alone. Right? So I'm gonna keep my sitting person as sitting, so I'll put him there so he can always talk. And as I said before, this is just simply adding some kind of variation so that all of them don't look. And then the images that I use here, I got them from Graphic Mama. Graphic Mama does poses. So and each set has about 112 different poses. So this would be great to get happy, angry, annoyed, that sort of thing. And it's something that you pay for, but if you can pool with somebody and purchase the suite, you can then share it among yourselves. So maybe one person can buy one and share, that sort of thing. And then of course, because you're doing this for educational purposes, you can then claim on your book grant for those of us who have book grant and want to get the money back. All right. So these are just some ways that you could work around the resources. All right. So I have 2 persons in already. I need to have, I have 1, 2, 3. And then on slide 8, we will put Sam, and we are going to put the one where she has the iPad in her hand because the instructions that she gave says that you will need the iPad. So we need to ensure that the one that we use is the one that she has the iPad in her hand. All right. Am I going too fast? Are we good? We're keeping up? We're following? Apart from Cordell, who I'm not sure if Cordell is still in the room with us.
Michelle okay, so on slide 8, she has to have the app. Okay. And
Yes.
slide 9 is the blueprint. Okay.
And slide 9 is a blueprint. And on slide 9, you have a number of numbers. So we will just for time's sake, we will just put 4. We'll put 4 numbers on slide 9. So you can put as many as you want. I'm gonna put 4. 2 on the left and 2 on the right.
Deidre says she's following but not keeping. Her PowerPoint has frozen.
Oh no.
Able to edit.
All right. I'm happy that she's following. Okay. So we still have slides 10, 11, 12, and 13 to populate. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to put in some text and put in some actionable bars so that it tells the student what it is they're supposed to do next. So this is where we will have to open the script. We have a script, so we'll open the script and we will copy and paste information here. Okay, so if we open the script, the first thing that Ricky says, we can copy that and we can paste it. Now you may realize that if you paste it, it's hard to read because of the background. So you can easily select a background fill. Let me do that again. So when we go to the text that we need, the first one says, hola, need your help, etc. When we copy that and we paste it in our slide, it will come across like this. But in order for the students to see it a little clearer, we can add a little fill. All right, we can easily add a transparency, but we not want to worry about that right now. So we'll add a little fill that gives the information. So there it is. And then the other thing that we're going to do, we're just going to put a text box in and we can select the shape we want and we draw it just below. We determine the fill color. So I'm going to use the green. Let's use this green. And then if you want to have a shape color, you can do that. And I tend to like a little effect on it. So I just add a little effect so that it gives it that raised feel. All right. And in here, we'll put what it is we want the students to do. So we want them to get. So let's get you out of here. And we can make it bigger so that it's easier to view. And of course, we can change the font if we want. If we change the font, we need to ensure that it is one of the common fonts so that the students will have it on their device when we share this with them. All right. If we save it as an HTML, we don't have to worry about that. The fonts are usually embedded. Or if you have time and you want to fool around with it, you can look at how to embed the file, the fonts that you use, the letters that you use in your activity. So what we're doing is we're putting in the text and we're putting in the action. And we're going to do this for about 3, and then we'll do the hyperlink and test it. And then we'll talk about it. I don't think we're going to get a chance to fully develop the escape room, but we want to ensure that we have the context, the learning context, we have the action, call to action, and we have the feedback, which is a combination. And then we can look at how that works. Okay, so for the first one, we're setting the context. For the second one, we're going to copy and paste as well. All right, so we're copying the information from the script. We're putting on a little fill on it so that it's easy to see. And then we'll put a little, well, we could copy this one and to keep everything except the color. So we could copy this one and paste it. So there are different ways that we could work around this. So this will say, let's find a sum. And then I can change the fill color. If I change the fill color, it means that all the other things that I've already set up would be maintained. Right, so if I change the fill color, the yellow against the white doesn't pop as much. So we also need to think of the accessibility aspect. And so the black on the yellow reads better. And then of course, I test it to see what it looks like. And okay, great, this looks nice. All right. And then I come out of that so that I can continue. For slide 4, I don't have to do anything because slide 4 simply wants to have the people there. So for slide 5, this is where I'll have to put in some information. So from my script, I can decide on one of the responses that speaks to the answer being incorrect. So I wouldn't use the one that refer to the female. I would use one that refer to the male. And when I paste it, this is what happens. So it means that I will have to do a bit of tidying up here. So I put my background in and I probably will have to resize this so that it shows easily. All right, so this looks good. And I can resize it a little bit more. Okay, so although we're creating something that simply has just a few slides, you're beginning to see that it requires quite a bit of time to set it up. But once you have set this up, the one time you have set this up, you can use it over and over with different groups, or you can make a little change here or a little change there, but you would have already gone through all of this work, right? So this is the information, and I will do my go back and try again. So I'm gonna draw my box right here. And then I'll go, let's find some. All right. So at this point, I'm going to allow us to put in our links. So we have 5 slides working with. How far are we? Have we put in information on all 5? Let me show you what I have. So on my first slide, I have the introduction information, and let's get you out of here. On my second slide, I have perfect, and I have let's go find Sam. On my third slide, this is apart from the landing page. I have the 4 characters, the 4 people in the room that I am going, the students will have to look at them and decide which one is Morena. And then on slide 5, I have one of them giving me some kind of response, feedback, and the feedback means that I have to go back and try. It's not one that says I can continue. And so I have that kind of feedback, and I have the call to go back and find Sam. Okay, how are we doing? Do we all have that? Is that a yes?
No, teacher.
All right, we have a few minutes. I can wait.
What's on 5? 5 is which
Only
one?
only on slide 2 with the text. In the
Only
script.
on slide 2. That's
With the
fine.
script.
I'm giving you a little time to put the rest of the text in. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make the slides to my right a little bigger so that you have an idea of what goes where. Or maybe that doesn't work very well. I don't know how much you're seeing when I make it bigger.
Oh, they're seeing 2.5. Okay, 3.5, 4 slides.
So how many persons have information on 5 slides?
Text. There's no text on the group shot.
No, there's no text on the group shot.
So Um, hmm, okay, so which text goes on the one?
On slide 5.
Yeah, with the white man. I don't have him on the same place.
So
Yeah.
with the white man, it's one of the incorrect responses, and it's definitely not the one that ends with Morena. So you
Yeah,
can select you can use anyone. So you can either, there are two on the script. So you can either select the one that says you recognize that Moreno means dark-haired, because both of them are dark-haired. So you can select anyone.
Okay. I think it's person true.
What about the rest of us?
Oh.
I'll give us a little time, but you need to talk to me. So for the person who was only on slide 2, do you have something on slide 3 now? This is what I have on slide 3. I really love how invested you are and how engrossed you are in the activity that you're currently doing.
Both 3 and 5 say let's find Sam as for the button.
Yes, but you can easily change the one on 5 to be go back, look again, something that
Okay,
but I have let's find Sam repeated because we still haven't found the Sam as yet. All right, so now we have come to the part where we are going to be putting our links so that when the students, so if I put it in slideshow view and I view it from here, I cannot continue because I can't click. So I need to ensure that I put in the parameters so that when I click on the word play, I actually play. Now, when I click on play, it's going to take me to the second slide, slide 2. So it means that I'm going to have to insert a hyperlink. Now I can click on the image and I can go up to insert link. All right. So I can go to insert link and then I would scroll to slide 2. Make sure it says place in this document because this is where we want to put the link. And then I'd click on slide 2. Or I can right click on the image and go to link. And when I click on link, it takes me to the same page. I just double check to make sure it says place in this document, and then I click on slide 2. Okay, so please insert your link on your landing page. On the image that says play, you're going to go to insert, click on link, or you right click the image and select insert link, and we're hyperlink it to slide 2. And for the one on slide 2, we're hyperlinking it to slide 3 because it follows. Now, if you had set up your room in such a way that it has branches, you would have to be mindful of what clicks goes where, right? So right now, this is simply a simple linear thing. So we can easily select the slide number or next slide. Okay, so slide 2 will hyperlink to slide 3. Slide 3.
We have to create it's not a must have missed the part about creating buttons here.
Oh, you missed that part?
Yeah.
Okay, so to create the buttons, we simply went to Insert, Shape, drew a shape, right click, put the text in,
Okay.
and then I made my font bigger and bolder so my students can see it easily. I changed the fill color, and then I put an effect on it. You don't have to put an effect, but I like it because when I do this, it sort of gives the impression that it's a bit raised, the effect that I put on it. So that's how we insert our buttons.
Okay, Michelle, I seem to be doing something wrong because
You want to share your
when
screen? Let me stop sharing and you can share your screen. Go ahead.
okay, I am where am I? My Ricky's room. I took, let me see,
You're
share.
not sharing as yet though, you know.
Okay, I am looking for my share button. Let me see. Okay, here I go. I took the script off because it was shifting Ricky and the room around.
Ah, because you inserted the image. So one of the things that I did, I showed us that we could insert the image or we could embed the image in the slide itself so that I wouldn't have to worry about the image moving around. So, but you can work this way. So try it again, please. Copy back the script and put it in.
You can also lock an image.
And then there's that. I was trying to go for the simplest way for those of us. Thanks, Mika. So you want to try that for us?
Right click
I-
and you see it in the menu options.
So one of the things that you probably would have to do, yes. So because this is the room, so I notice you have a background fill and then you have the room as a part of the image. The room has to fill up the
Or
area.
the room has to fill up. Okay.
Yes, because it's the room. So you may have to resize the room. You know that you can resize a room without deleting the text that you just put in.
Okay. Reset.
All right, and then now because the room sort of have this stretched feel, it doesn't look so bad. I normally just crop off a little bit off the bottom so that it gives it a better balance.
Okay.
But you can leave it as it is.
All right.
All right. So if you right click on the image,
This image?
Yes.
The room?
So we want to keep it. So you see where it says lock? So this is just a little trick. So go down to where it says lock. I'm looking at it. What happened?
Okay, I am not too sure
All
where
right,
the
there.
lock is.
That's fine. Go back to the image on this slide and right click on the image. All right, and then you'll see bring to front.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Click on that and there you have it. So your image won't move around.
Okay.
Yeah. So where is your text? All right, and then you can put a little background color in the text so that you don't see through the window and all of those things. So you can shape fill is to the left. The shape fill is to the left.
Oh.
All right. All right, and the lighter the color background for your text fill, the better, because you don't want it competing with the color of the text that you have. All right. And then you can probably move that a little bit to the left, draw your shape below that, and carry it over to the window some more. Hello, you're off the slide now.
Off the
So
slide?
remember,
Oh,
yeah, you're off the slide. So that works. That works. And then below that, you would type, let's get you out of here, or let's go, or game on, or I'm ready, or you know, the plan is a go, or something
oh,
that
can I
works.
can I put it in this below?
You can put it in there, but it means that you have to be even more careful when you are putting your hyperlink in. So if you are a proficient user, you can put it in and you're good to go. If you're not so much, create a separate box so that you can hyperlink that box.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so I guess I'll have to insert another box.
Yes, I would suggest that you do that, especially if you're developing your skills at this point. So you're okay? All right. The other thing that we need to think about, and this is it when you are becoming much better at it. Right now, if you put it in slideshow view, well, you don't even have to put it in slideshow view. If you look at it right now, you'll realize that Ricky, head is touching the ceiling. So you need to ensure that you make the size of the person be something that is realistic. We don't have many people who are so tall that when they stand, the head, and Ricky look like he's on the short side. So think about things like that in terms of the the representation of what real life specs dimensions would look like. All right. All right. So let us continue. So on my slide 3, so slide 1, play would be hyperlinked to slide 2, and then let's get out of here would be hyperlinked to slide 3, and slide 3 would be hyperlinked.
Can you reshare, please, right?
Oh, thank you. Right, so my slide 1, this is hyperlink, and if you pass your cursor, you get some information below. So it says slide 2. So on slide 1, this image is hyperlinked to the second slide. This text box is hyperlinked to this slide, the third slide. On this slide, I am now going to hyperlink this one to slide 4. Slide 4 has my group of people. And then for each person on slide 4, I would hyperlink it to the respective slide that has them alone. No, I only have one setup, so I am just going to ensure that this person is hyperlinked to slide 5. So the person in the chair, I am going to hyperlink him. He's already hyperlinked. I'm going to hyperlink him to slide 5. All right. So there we go. Okay. And then on slide 5, this is going to be important. On slide 5, because the response is incorrect, I need my students to go back to slide 4. No, I don't want to use the hyperlink that says go back to slide 4. What I want to do is use an action. So if I go up to insert and I go across to where it says action, it will say that there's no action on it. I will click the hyperlink to, and of course it has next slide and the different slide numbers, but I want last slide view. So it doesn't matter what they click on, if it carries them here and they need to go back, it takes them to the last slide that they saw, which would have been slide 4 in this case. So the action last slide view takes them back to this common page that has all the different options that they will need. All right. So if you have put all of those in, can somebody share so that we can test yours? So
Can you
Deidre, your
redo the
camera.
action on the?
Yes. So let me just
sorry.
undo. All right, so here I select my text box and then I go up to insert. You're seeing?
Yeah, sorry about
You're
that.
seeing?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So I click on my box or my image, whatever it is I want to do it on. I make sure insert is highlighted and I go across to action. And it will say none because I haven't put any action on it. So I will select hyperlink to, and then I scroll down to last slide view. And then I click
Okay.
OK. All right. So sometimes different students are on different pages, but you want them to go back to the last slide that they were at. This is good for you to use that. All right. So essentially, if you were following along with me, you have the makings of something. So anybody would like to share your screen? Anybody want to share what you have?
I'm sorry. I'm on Zoom on my tablet and working on the laptop. That's the challenge I have right now.
That's fine. Anybody else wants to share? You could get some feedback.
Okay, I haven't done all the links yet, but let me.
That's fine. Let me stop sharing so that you can share. So put it in slideshow view so that we can see how it runs.
Okay. Slide.
Start from the beginning. Okay, so press play. Okay, first let's get you out of here. Nice, let's find Sam. I like the finger that you have put in. All right, click on one of the incorrect one, the one that you hyperlinked. I don't know how many you hyperlinked. Okay, you hyperlinked
one
him.
so far.
But you haven't put the return to.
No, I haven't reached that
Okay,
far yet. Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. It's looking good. It's looking good.
So I did that. I did him twice and cropped his legs underneath
Yes, I
the
realized
table.
that you cropped him to have him sitting in a chair. Not bad. Nice. Okay, so these are some ways you can just fool around with what it is that you're working with. All right. Thank you so much for sharing, Annika. All right. So essentially we started building out the finer pieces of our escape room. And then of course we would have to keep testing it as we go along. And then whenever we're finished, we save it, we convert it, and we share it with our students. Okay, so we still have some time. So let me continue sharing, and we'll wrap this up and we'll talk a little bit more. So let me put this back in slideshow view. Okay, so we have gone through that. We did a thing, and I liked what we saw. What we need to remember when we're building our rooms is that we need to think about the learning outcomes, right? And then we need to think about the principles of effective feedback. Well, one of the things that we need to remember is that there is a psychological benefit to creating games and adding gaming elements and to our feedback. So there is the reduction of threat response. So the students don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to fail and so forth. They can fail in an easy environment, and they can fail again and fail better. Okay, there's increased engagement because the students tend to be motivated when they get the feedback, and the feedback is structured in such a way they continue. And then of course there's the metacognitive benefits where there is the ability for them to get that, to think through, why did I do this? What exactly should I have done? What do I remember about what we thought about this? So the different game mechanics are set up within it so that the students get a chance to reflect and to think critically. So when we're setting up our games, we need to remember that we start with the learning outcomes. We always start with the learning outcomes. We ensure that the principles for effective feedback are put in place so that the feedback is timely, it's immediate where possible, it is specific, it's actionable, There is a balance. So if you're using different types of feedback, you can combine or you can use different types. You're focusing on the students going through and completing the task in a particular way. So we're looking at the how, not so much the what. And then of course, we're looking at giving statements that's forward, feed forward, where we're looking at emphasizing improvement and not really passing any judgment on the students. We need to remember the mechanics for feedback. So if we can have progressive disclosure, simply meaning that information is revealed every time they achieve something. We'll have hint system where we have scaffolded guidance. So as the students go on, they are given a little bit more and they're told what they're doing right and that they're not doing something. We integrate into the storyline. We integrate feedback as a part of the story. So as we go and the students are getting the feedback, we make sure that it aligns well with the story that we came up with. And then of course, where possible, we ensure that we adhere to the UDL principles. So if we can add visual and text and audio and interactive components in there, we're not going to just throw it in for the sake of throwing it in, but we need to ensure that we give the students multiple means of engagement and representation and assessment in this case. And then if we can, where possible, if we can have collaborative discovery and solving of puzzles, we let that take place. When we think about the game-based assessment, we ensure that the scenarios that we set up are as close to something that is likely to happen in the real world. All right. So we can give them something that is a real case and we mask it in such a way that the students have to be solving it as they go through. So we set it up as a puzzle or a challenge that they have to do. And we let them find some things out. We hear about Easter eggs, little things that we put in that students stumble upon that give them a clue, a hint, a bonus point, or something like that. We can then ensure that there are different attempts, several attempts at failure without them worrying about losing marks or anything like that. So it's risk-free failure, if you will. And then of course, we need to think about the intrinsic motivation. So their natural curiosity is driven by the accomplishment of the driver as drivers within the game that we're setting up. We need to ensure that we have effective feedback pathways. So we can have branching. So we have different responses based on the different errors that the students make. We can have hidden clues. So we can have feedback that is embedded into certain things that they click that also will help them. We can give what we call knowledge gates. So knowledge gates is they progress depending on how well they're demonstrating understanding. So you can easily put something in to show that, okay, they're moving forward. So you can put a progression bar in there as well. And then, of course, you have the critical thinking aspect of it. You can use inferential challenges so they can draw a conclusion based on information that they have. They can make decisions based on certain consequences. So if they get it wrong, they can go back and know, so it's not the same thing that they're going to be clicking on. And then, of course, we have different points where we have them thinking through the process. All right. So these are some of the things that we need to remember. And then I remember somebody earlier said that we should start small. So start small, start simple, begin with one little thing rather than trying to do a full-blown escape room with many aspects of it. Focus on one skill, one concept, one topic, and use simple tools that you're comfortable with. So if you're good with Google Sites, use Google Sites. If you're good with with Microsoft PowerPoint, use Microsoft PowerPoint. Embrace the learning process. Remember that it's okay not to be an expert at the start. I don't think any of us started out as experts. View this as an opportunity to learn with your students and learn with your colleagues. And as you, when you do something and the hyperlink work, celebrate the small wins, learn from the challenges as you go through. Collaborate with your colleagues. So if you have other colleagues who are interested or who may be a little more tech savvy than you are, collaborate if this is possible. Collaborate not only with the creation, but also if there's a research in there. Share your ideas, share your resources, pool to buy some things if you want to buy. Utilize resources that already exist. So if you have templates, use the templates. If the templates are editable, that's even better. If you have online communities or forum where people share their things and say you can use it, use these. And then remember, we're focusing on the pedagogy, not the technology alone. The goal of learning has to be about pedagogical development and advancement. It's not about technological perfection. So we need to ensure that we remember that it's all about learning. The escape room is a tool. Ensure that the puzzles that you create, the challenges that you create are aligned with the learning objectives, and prioritize the content over technical and fancy features. It's all about the learning aspect. Test it, test it, test it. Have somebody else test it thoroughly and several times. Listen to your students, get feedback from your students, and have a backup plan. Sometimes the best laid plans go awry. So ensure that you have something else if that doesn't work for you. And take it easy on yourself. Take it slowly. Enjoy the process. Remember the benefits. Yes, it's going to take a little while, but it helps. And if you do set up a room, share that, please. I'd love to see what that looks like. And so I have enjoyed this. I enjoyed looking at what it is that you were doing. And this is just a little tips, a tiny taste or something to whet your appetite at what you can do. There is so much more in the world of game-based learning, and definitely where escape rooms are concerned. We took a little peep into the online digital room, but then there is a physical, there is the hybrid, and so much more we can do. But start small, explore, document it, enjoy the process. When the recording is ready, I will share it so that you'll have access to it for those of you who want to practice some more. And there's a little document that we had started working on when Deidre and I had done some presentation at another conference. I'll try to finish that so you can have it to guide you as you go through thinking about using escape rooms and thinking about how you can incorporate your feedback. For those of us who were in the last session and I had promised you a feedback bank, I did not remember about it. I got caught up in a number of other things, but I will complete that and share it with the recording so you have that on hand. And you can use the feedback, you can tweak the feedback, and you can use it, in your courses if you so desire. So thank you ever so much. Do the evaluation. We want to hear from you. And if there are any last words, please. Go ahead, please, Adele.
Thank you. I was not in the last session, but I would love to have access to feedback bank. So just noting that request.
Okay, thank you. We know it's noted. All right. So have a good one, ladies. I don't remember if any mail came in. I saw the numbers went up, but I don't know if we had any mails. But thank you very much for joining us, colleagues. And have a good one. Enjoy the weekend and look out for an email from us when the recording and the feedback bank is ready for use. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle, and we look forward to the longer session, to take us, hold our hands and take us through.
We will need to have a discussion with Dr. Chisholm about lengthening. It's one of the things that we have seen coming up on the evaluation time and time where people are asking for longer sessions so that they can be engaged more. So we'll have a discussion with Dr. Chisholm. Thank you very much.